Hi everyone, happy Friday to you. Welcome to this week's marketing training. Letting Facebook do its thing as it sort of gets settled into this live situation. All right, looks like we're coming through here okay. I would ask that if you can see me and hear me okay, if you wouldn't mind liking this video as I'm getting a couple, looks like I have some eyeballs on this. Even if you're just scrolling on by, would you give me a quick thumbs up to say, hey, I can see you and hear you okay? Today we're talking about how to find the right words in your marketing. I put out a post earlier this week asking for what you would love to see this topic, this training on. Oh, thank you for that like. And this was one of the suggestions. There are other really great suggestions related to social media and networking and all those kinds of things. And hopefully I was able to point you in the direction of one of those resources if that's what you were looking for, and or added them to my list that I reflect back on in order to create these trainings. So like I said, how to find the right words in your marketing is the one that won out this week. So I'm really happy if you've chosen to join us. You may have realized when you started a private practice that holy cow, there's actually a lot of writing to be done, and it's not the same as writing papers in grad school. And it's sort of this new muscle that you're having to flex over and over and over again. You need a website, you need directory profiles. What about emails to people? What about blogs? Everyone talks about blogging and social media. Lots of writing to be done. And so if you've ever sat staring at a blinking cursor, wondering what to say, then I want you to know that you're not alone, and that there's a way and some questions you can ask yourself to really clarify this. Certainly it's a process. Some things are going to come easier than others. Some of it's going to come easier to some folks than others, but there is a way to eliminate some of this overwhelm when it comes to writing and really putting words to the work that you do. So hi Stacy, hi Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad to know that I've come through well enough that you're able to comment on this video. So if this is one of your first times joining us, hi, really happy that you're here. My name's Anna. I run this group in this amazing community of clinicians. Everything that we do here is about, ooh, I'm getting all jittery, so let me know in the comments if there are issues. I run this group, and we are all about marketing your practice in a way that isn't just effective, because I believe you should get booked out with the full fee, ideal fit clients that you love to work with, but is also authentic to you. You may have run across advice in the past, or even just thought yourself of marketing in sort of this like slimy or salesy way. We are anti-slimy, anti-salesy here. We're all about putting yourself out there in a way you feel really ultimately really proud of. And feel like you can stand behind, because when you put yourself out there authentically, your clients respond to that. And similarly, when you put yourself out there inauthentically, clients respond to that as well. So that's what we're about here. I'm really happy that you're here. If you're catching me live, you have the luxury of getting to ask questions live. So anything that you drop into the comments, I will circle back to after I sort of complete the training here and answer any questions you have. So don't hesitate to drop a comment into the comments below this video as we're chatting. If you are catching the replay, drop a hashtag replay for me into the comments, and then any questions you may have. Always happy to come back and revisit things that you're wondering about, even if you weren't able to be here live with us. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's dive in here. So as I mentioned, you're not alone if you've ever sat down and been like, what do I write? Or felt like you have written, and then deleted, and then written, deleted, because nothing just feels right. And you also may have found that writing some things, writing social media posts, for instance, comes a little bit more naturally than writing for your website. And so today I want to walk you through 3 key questions that I want you to take note of and to have close by anytime you go to write for your practice. This training is not specifically about social media, specifically about website, specifically about any one particular type of writing. It's an approach you can take to anything. So keep these close at hand and reference them when it comes time to write next. So the very first question that I want you to ask yourself, and this is a question that I ask myself when writing for my clients, or that I encourage my clients to ask themselves when I'm in the coaching scenarios with my clients, is first and foremost, what is my goal here? And that might seem simple, like, hello, I want to get clients. Like, no, actually, I want you to get really specific about your goal. If you don't have a clear goal when you're sitting down to write, especially when you're writing for marketing, you're going to have a hard time. And it might be one of the reasons you feel like you've sort of spun your wheels and not known what to say. So here's some examples of that. A social media post. Your goal with this specific social media post that you're working on or writing is to empower the reader or to encourage them. Not to get clients, that's an end-to-end goal, right? But to empower them. The about page of your website, please hear me in that every single page of your website has a unique goal, and it should. Maybe your about page is to connect with potential clients on a more personal level. That's the goal of the about page. If you're making a marketing brochure, maybe you're working on a handout to, maybe you're going to go ahead and network with some primary care physicians or complementary professionals, other therapists, whatever. You're making some piece about you. What's the goal there? Maybe it's to summarize your services, everything that you do, your areas of specialty, in a way that potential clients can understand. So that they're like, oh wow, Anna does that. I didn't realize there was a therapist that specialized in that. So maybe that's the goal. Or Psychology Today. You sit down and write, that's another huge place that you have to do some writing in private practice. What's your goal there? Maybe to compel the reader to visit your website to schedule a consult. Maybe that's the goal. I want people to go from my Psychology Today profile to my website with the goal of scheduling a consult. So you can see how each of the times you're sitting down to write something, you can identify a really clear goal. If you're watching this and you're thinking about things that you've struggled with in your writing, feel free to share what those goals might be. Like I said, please hear me that it's important to be really specific here. When I sit down to write a homepage of a website for a client, my goal, my approach, and therefore what I ultimately write is so much different than the goal, approach, and what I ultimately write for an about page or for their Psychology Today profile. It really matters what you would like to do with that piece. And I recognize that all of this, right, we're marketing, we're trying to grow your practice. So the end goal is always going to be that it results in clients, but there are little incremental parts of that journey in bringing someone to becoming a client of yours. And it's identifying that little incremental part that's going to actually make your marketing more effective and your writing more effective. Because then your writing doesn't have to accomplish all of these things. It can accomplish the one specific thing that this is meant for. So I can sort of take off a little bit of that burden of like, okay, this is it. This is my chance to get a client. No, this is your chance to empower your client. Or this is your chance to connect with your client on a more personal level, right? So it takes a little bit of that pressure off and it allows you to write in a way that actually serves a really specific purpose. So that's the first question. Anytime you're sitting down to write, whether it's your website, social media, blog post, anything, what is my goal for this piece specifically? Then the next question to ask yourself is, who's reading this? Right? So we've talked, and we talk a lot in this group about who your ideal client is, what your niche is, all those kinds of things. And knowing those things is so critical, because the way that you're going to write to a marketing brochure for a PCP is very different than what you're going to write to a potential client on your about page. So your language, I mean, you as a clinician are going to say the same, your approach is going to stay the same, but the language you use and the words you use to connect and to accomplish that goal that you set out in number 1 is going to be a little bit different. So when you have a really deep understanding of who you want to be attracting and talking to with this piece, that makes it a lot easier to know what words are going to connect with them, what words aren't going to connect with them, right? So on an about page, if your goal is to connect with potential clients on a more personal level, is this a place for you to get super clinical about accelerated resolution therapy and what you're passionate about and what you want to do on the weekends? That's for you to ask yourself. But it really comes down to who's reading this. What's the end user of these words? And what is actually going to connect to them? What do they need to hear right now, right? So who is reading this? This is a really important conversation. I've actually am serving some Confident Copy students in an ongoing basis after we've wrapped up the program, and we were talking about their marketing to primary care physicians and being parts of listservs and other kind of traditional networking methods. And one clinician was wondering, what do I say when someone reaches out, looking for a clinician for a certain, client? Like, hey, looking for, a therapist that specializes in EMDR for a male. What do you say back to that? Well, we kind of talked through that, and she was totally thinking in the right way. And she said, well, I know that ultimately this is going to be passed on directly to the client. So what I should write should be client friendly. Even though it's going to be passed through the clinician, even though the clinician's going to be the one receiving it, they're most likely just going to copy and paste it and send it over to the client. So she was thinking about who's ultimately going to be reading this and what do they need to hear. And so we talked about how she could craft a response that was going to be incredibly client friendly and connect to what that client needed. using words that they understood and connected to, them at their point of need. So by knowing who you're wanting to talk to and who's ultimately going to be reading this, that can make it so much clearer what words to use and what words not to use. So with the third question then, so first we've asked ourselves, what is my goal? And that is so critical in all of your writing. What's my goal here for this one specific piece? Who's reading this? Who's the end user? And what words are gonna connect with them? And then next, what do they need to hear in order to accomplish my goal? So again, this is something where I talk a lot with my copy students about this when it comes to the website. If you feel like your website has to do absolutely everything for you at all times, you end up saying way too much and it doesn't feel clear at all. If you instead think about your website serving the purpose of just inviting your clients to take the first step with you, just inviting your clients to reach out for a free consultation, then you know what you need to share now and what's probably worth sharing later. What level of self-disclosure do you need to include on your website? Well, what's most important or what might be important to them in order to get them to that next step, which is the goal, right? Reaching out for a free consultation. They don't have to be completely committed to you and already signing on the dotted line and handing over all of their intake paperwork in Simple Practice. They don't have to be all there yet, right? The purpose of this page, the purpose of this tool is just to get them to that next step. So the question to ask yourself is, what do they need to hear in order to accomplish my goal? So if you've ever struggled with writing too much, I know that there are folks that struggle with writing too little and others that feel like they're just too wordy. The question to really pare that down is this helping accomplish my goal? So a couple things I would suggest here. If you're fumbling through this and you feel like, oh, well, I don't know what the answer to that is, here's a question back to you. How would I describe this if I were sitting across from this person? You sit across from this person, your ideal client, often. Multiple times a week, right? Hopefully, if you think of the ideal clients that you currently have on your caseload, imagine sitting in a session with them or being on a consultation with them for the first time and they ask you a question. What would your answer be back to them? You're allowed to just write that in your marketing. In fact, that's probably more effective than anything you could create with just your fingers. So ask yourself, does this feel like me when I read it out loud? Is this something that sounds like me? Is this how I would describe this to this person? So imagine yourself sitting across the table from your ideal client or sitting in the therapy room or on a session with a client. What would you say there? Your marketing does not have to be this other voice or this other person. It can be an extension of you. It can sound like you. It can look like you. It should do all of those things because your marketing is an opportunity to connect with your clients. So if you're asking yourself, like, well, I don't know what to say here. Okay, pretend that you had to say something. Pretend that you were on a consultation or in a session with someone and they asked you a question. What would your answer be? Whatever the answer is probably belongs in your marketing. And that can be a really great way to sort of dislodge this. Similarly, if you're looking to network with someone, whether that's in a marketing brochure or writing an email to someone, asking to, connect for the first time or something like that, what would you say if you were already connected? What would you say if you were sitting down to coffee with this person? Take this burden off and all this pressure of your marketing having to do all of these incredible things and just say, how would I show up here? What's most authentic to me? What sounds and feels like me? These 3 questions are fairly broad, and that's intentional because I want you to be able to apply these to any sort of writing that you do. The first question, again, is what is my goal? You have to start there. Have a really, really clear goal of what you're trying to accomplish. Then understand who's reading this. What do they need to hear and what do they not need to hear? Right? That third question, what do they need to hear in order to accomplish my goal? So what words are going to connect with them and what sounds and feels like me in order to accomplish that thing? Friends, that's it. Those are the 3 questions that I really, really encourage you think about when it comes to writing for your practice. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, that's great, Anna, but I have no idea where to even begin on this, please know that you're not alone. I'm offering these as some tools, but if you're still feeling just totally frozen and stuck in your marketing, please know that you're also not alone. A lot of clinicians do feel this way, and while these questions can be really useful, having a starting point is also really, really important. So please know that support is out there for you. It's why I've created the program Confident Copy, which is my group coaching program, where we figure this out. We start putting words to the work that you do. We start exercising this writing muscle in order to help you get really, really clear on the work that you do, get really, really clear on who that ideal client is that we are ultimately writing to, and starting to put things on paper that feel really, really authentic to you. Confident Copy is going to be opening up again. Oh my goodness, it's April, so technically next month. I haven't announced that super publicly, although I just did now, so there you go. If you are interested in potentially joining us, I really, really recommend that you join the waitlist at walkerstrategyco.com/cc. You'll qualify for a discount there. You'll be the first to know when doors open. But that is where I take you through this process in depth. We figure out the niche thing. We figure out, okay, who are you as a clinician? What do you specialize in? How do we talk about that? We talk about Google and SEO to make sure that if people are finding you via Google, we are setting you up for success there. And then what do we say on all of these really, really key pieces of your marketing, your homepage, your about page, your specialty pages, your Psychology Today? What do you need to have in place in order to accomplish these goals? And to really, really, I called it confident copy for a reason, to really have confidence as you put yourself out there in your practice. Like I said, walkerstrategyco.com/cc is where you can join the waitlist for that. We'll be kicking off next month. Wow, I have a lot of work to do. Between now and then, our next round, it's going to be really, really wonderful. So, friends, I hope that this was helpful for you. As I mentioned, these are questions that can apply to any sort of writing that you're doing. So whether you're brand new in your practice and you don't know where to start, then cool, apply this to things like your Psychology Today profile and your website. If you're established and you're wanting to take your marketing to the next level, awesome. Apply these things to your blog posts, to your to your social media, to your TikToks, whatever you're creating. Think about it through these lenses, and I promise that they will be more resonant with that client you're trying to attract, and hopefully feel a lot simpler when it comes to actually putting words on paper. So I hope this has been helpful for you. This was a quicker one, and I flew through it, and I didn't see any questions come through. So hopefully that means that it all made sense. Of course, if you're catching the replay and you do have questions, don't hesitate to still drop them in. I'm happy to address anything you might be wondering about. I'm just going to double check I didn't get any additional questions, since sometimes Facebook can be a little weird. I would hate to miss the opportunity to chat with y'all. Let's see. All right, cool. I didn't see any questions come through. Friends, I hope this was useful for you. Thank you so much for being here. A good group joined me live. If you have any questions about confident copy or about what we talked about here, don't hesitate to drop them in with the hashtag replay. I'll come back and revisit this, whether it's tomorrow or a year from now. I'm here and I'm happy to answer. So thanks for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next time.